Ethan turned the page and broke the silence. He was alone in the old library, leaning on his fist with a pen in his other hand. Next to the book is an open notebook. Silence returned before it was interrupted by a cat's meow. He looked through the empty space of the nearby shelf towards the door of the librarian's private room, before returning to continue reading. The smell of old books wafted from the shelves. Some found pages that were claimed to have been torn from the original book. Ethan read aloud as a noise from a cat meowing, and the clashing of metal rose from the room. Written on a notebook on the table was a handwritten list of love spells, then control spells, then healing magic, all with a wrong sign. He added to the list the Amora Codex, spells to attract a beloved. Fake and nonsense, he said angrily, touching the plastic cover of the notebook. Then he grabbed his phone and wrote on Messenger for his profile picture of a girl with a book. "Can we just hang out?" Then he quickly deleted it without sending it, hung up the phone, and went back to reading. "With an old leather cover, and the manuscript is untitled," he said in a hoarse voice at first, before he stopped to clear his throat and then continued. And when the noise returned, Ethan exhaled angrily before turning another page. The elderly librarian quietly left the private room and closed the door behind him, carrying a lifeless cat and wearing medical gloves. Ethan looked at the librarian's bald head. He, in turn, looked at Ethan from afar and smiled apologetically. The librarian turned his gaze between the lifeless cat and the distant entry door with interest, before he stood on his limbs and raised his neck to see the end of the stairs. Then he exhaled in relief when he heard the sound of feet rising. Ethan glanced at the librarian with some disapproval before returning to continue reading. The librarian scratched his white beard with his wrist. "It is about 9 inches high and 6 inches wide," Ethan read in a whisper, then in rapid staccato grunts. "Contains, 300 pages. Ethereal beings. To control and manipulate. A spell," shaking his feet. A cleaning worker entered through the entrance door, and the obese librarian waved his hand to the worker after his steps became louder. The worker walked cautiously, and the librarian looked at Ethan again apologetically. Ethan stopped reading and watched them. The librarian whispered audibly to the worker, "Curiosity killed the cat." He handed the cat to the cleaner, then continued, "Give them the cat, they are downstairs." Then he waved a book in his hand. "Get rid of this ill-fated book." He waved a book with an old brown leather cover and no title on its cover, or any other writings. Ethan looked at the book in the librarian's hand in horror. He returned to reading hurriedly a paragraph in the book in his possession, exchanging glances between the two books. "Should I throw it in the trash?" the worker asked, looking at the old book. "You'd better burn it completely," said the librarian, adjusting his glasses before entering the private room. Ethan looked at the clock on his phone, and the date indicated January 7th, 2024. Ethan then closed the book titled Pseudosciences Past and Present. He quickly left, focusing his gaze on the book in the worker's hand. In the evening, Ethan sat at his home at his desk, opened the untitled leather-covered book, and studied the symbols and talismans. He read until his face convulsed. Then he suddenly began to meow, and his head moved to the right slowly, expressing pain. He closed his eyes, and when he opened them, he was in a completely different room. In this strange new place, Ethan looked at a huge conference table. He turned left and saw daylight through a window at the top next to a huge file cabinet. He started meowing in fear when he looked at his foot and found it was a cat's foot. He saw the old librarian sitting at a huge desk behind the conference table, who approached him wearing medical gloves and was much taller than usual. The cat moved towards the door before the librarian caught him, saying, "Ethan, you nosy person, why did you steal the book?" He carried him while the cat meowed, trying to escape. The old man laughed softly before throwing it into a box labeled Schrödinger. The cat screamed, making a noise before the box cracked from inside. The librarian put his hand into the box, carrying the dead cat, and smoke rose with the smell of burnt fur. The old man picked up his phone. The date was January 8th, 2024, and he started a call saying, "John, come now!" He went out to the library, gently closing the door to his private room, looking with a shy smile at a girl who sat far away at a table reading a book, which looked at him with disapproval. Then she wrote a message on her phone. "Hey, Ethan, what are you doing this weekend?" And she sent it. "I'm sorry," the librarian said to the girl. He handed the cat to the worker, saying, "Curiosity killed the cat." Then he continued, "Give them the cat. They are downstairs." Then he waved a book in his hand. "Get rid of this ill-fated book as well." He waved a book with an old brown leather cover that did not contain any title on its cover.